Good morning and welcome, everyone.
Good morning.
September 1st.
No, it's the
Yes,
2nd,
September 1st.
September 1st. Sorry. It's
What I
September
want you to
1st.
know is it's your senior ministers are having senior moments and we actually don't know what day it is. It's
First
good.
day
Yeah.
of September.
Welcome.
And today is Labor, tomorrow is Labor Day.
That's
And
right.
so
We'll get this
we're
straight. Yeah.
talking today about labor of love. And interestingly, many of our uh, listeners here are no longer holding full-time jobs, but most of them are staying very busy.
Labor in a
Oh,
way.
with the labors of love, yes, and Bob is still laboring with a full-time job. So this is an interesting topic, this labor of love. And I'm going to start with a quote from Ernest Holmes about such things. In a book called This Thing Called You, he says, seek to make your work a prayer, your believing an act, your living an art. It is then that the object of your faith will be made visible to you. It is then that you shall, quote, kiss the lips of your desire, unquote. Now, he was always doing those quotes and not citing the source. So I don't know where that kiss the lips of your desire comes from, but I know what it means, which is that you will love what you're doing. You will love your acts of whether it's labor or joy or fun or travel or whatever it is. So this holiday began to give our laborers a little rest, an extra day off to catch up. And I was reading the history of it. I wish I had written down the dates, but when this whole idea started, people were working 7 days a week. How many hours a day?
60, 70 hours a week. Yeah.
They were working
70
in
hours a week.
factory jobs. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were working all the time, long days, every day. And so it was a big deal when they got one day off, Sunday. They got one day off, and of course, then we eventually went to 2 days off.
Well, there were labor issues and unions began and they began
Yes.
arguing for 8-hour days instead of 12 hours or 16-hour days. So
And I was remembering my grandparents who lived on a farm, and one of my aunts and uncles lived with them with all their children. And there was no day that was not a work day when you're on a farm. And there was that period of time in our history, in the 1800s and the early 1900s. Most people who were not in big cities had farms. So
mhm,
the majority of people worked all the time.
sure.
And they have to. As a matter of fact, my grandparents and or the aunts and uncles and cousins couldn't all ever come visit us at once because somebody had to stay home and feed the animals and take care, milk the cows and things. You can't skip a day of that. So um, labor is something that human beings have been doing a lot for a long time. As a matter of fact, I remember when I first took my first sociology course in 1960. Um, 1964, they said, my professor said, the biggest problem we were going to have in the future was what to do with all of our spare time. Because
Mm.
with automation and whatnot, we were going to, not have long work weeks. And we were going to have to figure out what to do with all of our leisure time. Now, that never happened because what he didn't know is that women were going to enter the workforce and we just continued to have more things. We wanted two cars instead of one car because the women were working as well, and we wanted bigger houses. And so the work has just continued. As a matter of fact, my children and their families work very hard, just like we did. So it's nice to have a day off, but it's even better to learn to love the work that you do.
So I'd like to talk about some ways that we might be able to do that. One of our members, and I won't mention names, one of our members actually goes to dance camps. I've never heard of such a thing as a dance camp. And I don't know, I guess maybe you put like a tent up and then you dance around the tent or camping. No, but what I thought.
I don't know, but you need it.
Yeah, definitely. But because I'm quite a good dancer in my sleep. When I wake up, it turns out I can't dance. But what I thought about when I was thinking about that is, I doubt very much that she has to dance fast to get it over with. I doubt that she gets up in the morning and says, I gotta dance today. Let's see if I can get this dance in, and maybe I can get 4 dances in instead of just 2. But what that made me think of is that dancing is a mindful thing. It's lots of movement, it's lots of activity. It actually can be rather strenuous and even tiring, especially for me who doesn't dance. But if you were to put your effort into experiencing the dance, then you would have a very different kind of an experience than let's get the dance done so we can get on to the next one. And I think part of our labor is we need to get so many things done each day. And there's this emphasis on the joy is not in the doing, the joy is in the getting it done. I've solved my list today. I went through 8 things on my list. I feel really good. What was it like doing those things? Oh, I don't even remember. I just got them done. And so part of the labor that I'm talking about today is the labor of involvement, the labor of bringing your whole self to the experience. That if you were to view it like a dance, then every step would have value and every step would be important. If it's not a dance, it's just, I got to get this thing done, then I think we miss out on it. And I think it's an important piece to consider. Is what you are doing part of life's dance? Or is it something that's just drudgery that you have to get through? And can you change that? Can you change the way you step into it, the steps that you take, and the way that you step out of it?
Right, and so that's a way of loving what you're doing. Um, I love this quote because I know some of us do not work anymore, some of the people here listening. And a Jewish scholar and rabbi by the name of Byron Sherwin said this: each of us is an artist commissioned to create one great work of art during our lifetime. And that work of art is our own life. So all of us are, living a lifetime. And so if that is your work of art, then that brings into question, how do I love living my life? Or do I love living my life? And if I don't, how could I? Because it is a gift. It is a gift. And, if there's one thing that I think we need to keep in mind when we live that life, whatever it is we're doing, is just to follow the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think if you do that one thing, just that one thing, you create a life of art. It is an art form, and you will be remembered well, and you can feel good about that life.
I'm going to also suggest that we look at what we are calling labor and ask ourselves, is it really labor, or have we simply labeled it as such? And that as having labeled it, we begin to experience the labor part of it, that is the uncomfortableness or the I have to do this part, or this is just every day I have to do the same thing because it's a labor. And so as we begin to look at the labor as an adventure, we begin to look at how we can move into that labor with more love. We have a different experience than if we look at it as a job that has to get done. My father worked in a factory for a lot of years, and he was very good at what he did because he did piecework. Piecework meaning that they would tell you how many pieces you had to turn out an hour, and if you exceeded that, you get paid more money.
Pieces of what?
Well, in this case, it was medallions and things on a punch press. So you would put a piece of metal in a press, and then a drop hammer would come down and press it, and then he would take it out and put in another one.
Like rings and
Yeah, right. And so they
plasterings.
actually had wrist restraints so that if you got your hand in by mistake too fast, it would pull it out. He took those off so that he could work faster. And he was the fastest one that did. But the problem, of course, was that he wasn't present. And
How could he not be
it
present?
just became automation, just being automatic. I would ask him, what are you doing? He's daydreaming. He was off doing other things in his head. And so, and I'm not suggesting it's good or bad, but what you can see when you automate something mentally is you're no longer present for the experience.
Hmm.
We do a lot of things on automatic. How many times have you been driving and then noticed that you have been driving in your head someplace else than on the road? And you said, "Oh, did I miss that exit? I wasn't paying attention." And so one of the things I'm suggesting is to attend more to what it is you're doing so that more of you can experience the value of that. And if there's no value in that, then the question is, do I have to do this? Is there a way I can do it differently? Is there ways I can break this up so that it doesn't do me? And so I think for a lot of us, and for myself, certainly, there's been lots of times in my life when I've done a job and it was a job rather than an adventure. And because it was a job, not an adventure, I hated it. And because I hated it, I didn't do it real well. So this labor is something like, an old Zen thing I heard a long time ago, and I'm sure you've heard it too. When you're doing the dishes, do the dishes. When you're doing the dishes, thinking about what you're going to do when the dishes are done, then you're not actually having the experience of doing the dishes. You're having the experience of being in a hurry to get that done so you can do something else that's on your mind. That, by the way, you're also not doing. And so can you be doing what you're doing, and can you bring yourself to the experience, and can you enjoy that in any way that maybe you haven't enjoyed it?
There's a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Yeah.
That I studied about when I was, really wanting to increase my metaphysical understanding. And I thought that was a strange title for a book, Chop Wood, Carry Water, when I'm talking about meditating.
Well, you
and
can't chop water.
Oh, chop wood, carry water. But I was thinking about experiencing the sublime through meditation and whatnot. And chop wood, carry water. But what what the book basically said was, yes, do your spiritual practices and then chop wood and carry water, then get up and do what you have to do to take care of yourself. You take care of the family. And, that's, it may be self-evident, but it's
But-
also spiritual.
But do it mindfully.
Yes, it can
Yeah.
be a spiritual thing. And, or you can take the experience of the spiritual with you
The
if
first,
you are mindful.
the first time I ever held birdseed in my hand and a bird landed on my hand to eat the birdseed out of my hand, the most amazing thing was feeling his feet on my hand as they moved around, feeling every step, being able to anticipate, being one with, being connected to. And it's very different than watching a bird on a feeder. And so how close can we get to the experience as opposed to, it's not even on my mind.
That must have been a powerful experience for you because he's tried to replicate it here. He got a bird feeder to put on our window of our second floor condo. And guess what? They won't come.
Well, they haven't discovered it.
Okay, they haven't
Yeah,
discovered
yeah,
it. They live in the tree, right,
That's right.
10 feet away, but they won't come to the feeder.
So I'm
So
making a
he's throwing
sign.
it out in the grass.
Yeah, so I'm
They
making
still won't come.
I'm making a sign that says "Welcome birds," and it's bilingual, and so I don't know what language they speak, but we're going to get birds here.
Okay,
Actually, I know that they know we have windows because one of them flew into it yesterday.
that's true. That's true. So I want to talk more about
Please.
this labor. Charles Fillmore had an interesting thing to say. He is one of the founders of Unity Churches. And he says, the truth is that divine mind, which is another word for God, divine mind rests in a perpetual Sabbath, meaning perpetual day of rest. And that which seems work is not work at all. When we become so at one with the Father mind as to feel it consciously, we also recognize eternal peace in which all things are accomplished. So that is definitely a goal, that because, we create first of all in mind. And so if we can do that in peace and calm, instead of striving and stressing and working hard, then we enter that eternal Sabbath, because I do believe that's how spirit creates.
Mhm.
Spirit creates with the idea and then it manifests. And so we need to incorporate both, of course, with our labor, but we can labor without stressing. We can labor without striving so much. And I think that would be the goal. to do it mindfully.
One of the easiest first steps might be simply to slow down,
True,
just to do
true.
what you're doing slow enough to take it in. I'm a writer and, but not a very good typer or typist. And so since I don't type well, what happens is I get ahead of myself in my typing and I see all kinds of mistakes. When I'm mindful of the typing, two things happen. I make fewer mistakes, but I actually notice the keys and notice the touch and notice the feel. And I become part of the process rather than it's in my way. It's interfering with what I want to do, which is to get this done. And so again, I think for all of us, whatever you're doing, slow down just a little bit and see what you notice. See what you can experience and see if you're experiencing everything that you want to experience while you're doing that.
Mm, truly. When I've gone to other countries, I especially remember because I was a kid when we went to Venezuela. My father would be so frustrated with the Venezuelan workers because, mañana was good enough for them. Tomorrow they were very slow, and getting anything done, like paperwork and visas and things like that it just seemed impossibly slow. But I think it's because we are so fast. We we do everything fast, fast.
Our favorite word is next.
And when I lived in Germany, they worked hard, but they had more vacations, holy days than you could shake a stick at. They just really, really partied a lot.
They had a lot of drinking festivals.
Yes, they did. But and now we have more 4-day, 3-day holidays than we did at that time in the 60s. We did not. But I don't think anybody works harder than Americans work. And so we need to say, how can we do it mindfully? How can we love what we do and do what we love? And if you don't love what you're doing, stop doing it. Do something else because you need to love what you're doing. You need to have it grow you,
Well,
not
and that's
diminish you.
the assumption there is that you can. I mean, unfortunately,
True.
there are things that you really can't stop doing. But I think if following what you're saying, though, there are things that we do every day that maybe we don't need to do. Or if we did them with more compassion or more love or more understanding, they would be different than they are. So what things are we doing that serves another person rather than if we're just doing them and we know they got to get done? So if we are in service to other people, we're in service to the ones we love. That makes the labor a different labor than if it weren't.
I agree. I agree. So,
I'm going to start vacuuming the floor for you.
but no, do it for us.
Well, if I do it for us, I don't really care.
Okay, for me.
I can walk
You
around
can
and
do it for me, then that's all right.
Well, but I think sometimes if we choose to do this for someone else and imagine that it's a service rather than just a task,
True, true.
it can make a difference. I'm not going to back in if I just change my mind. So, but I think whatever we're doing, bring as much love, bring as much compassion, bring as much of you as you can to the task and see how it feels. I know when I make art in the morning, it's easier in the morning than it is sometimes in the afternoon, because in the morning I have lots of energy and I'm excited about what I'm doing. By the afternoon, it has to be a good piece, whether it's good or not. And so I have to go back and say, wait a second, are you working on creating or are you working on outdoing what you did yesterday? Are you in competition with yourself or are you in that moment of expression?
And it's very important to love what you're doing with your work. I've always been fortunate that I've always loved what I was doing when it was work, and but I don't think I would do it otherwise.
Yeah.
And we watched last night, I think it was last night on America's Got Talent, a woman who was a dentist.
Yeah.
She's a successful dentist. That's a lot of training. That's a lot of work. And she was competing as an aerialist. She's beautifully, she had years of ballet, so she was very limber and did beautiful, just flying around on ties. And and came out very well in the competition. And Simon Cowell asked her, "You have a successful career. Why are you doing this?" And she says, "Because it's so much fun. I love
I
it."
love it, yeah. And
That's what we're talking
loving
about.
loving it made her airborne. Yeah,
Right. I mean, she could do the dentistry, it's a living,
yeah.
but she loved, it was fun doing, being an aerialist. And she did very well in the competition, ended up one of the winners of that specific thing. So if we can do what we love, and remember the golden rule, I think we're successful with this thing called labor and labor of love. So that is my wish and my hope for you. And
And mine for you as well.
yes,
And I
indeed.
think what I'm gonna do is, don't touch that.
I'm not touching anything.
You see the mouse moving around. I think we'll end with a treatment.
Okay,
Okay, so
an affirmative
an
prayer.
affirmative prayer, right? And in a way, it's really a treatment too for our own well-being. So what we're doing today is taking a breath in. And as we breathe in, we realize we are breathing in the vitality, the aliveness, and the possibility for living. All the possibilities for living are taken in with every breath. We do not hold on to that breath longer than it serves us. And we release it comfortably and easily, knowing that we are now making room for the next most wonderful adventure. And even if that adventure does not take us from one place to another, it allows us to be in the place that we are, fully and completely, so beautifully and so perfectly, that we are in a constant state of celebration for the life that we are living. For this, we are grateful, and for this, we say thank you. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you. And so with that, we're going to, I think I did not,
Sure.
I
Oh,
did
you didn't
not
do, okay,
open the
well, we'll
share
do it then.
now. So
Yeah.
this is our opportunity to invite you to support this ministry. And you do that. Most of you have already figured out how to do that. And if you haven't figured it out, you go to our website, which is CSL, which stands for Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Beaches, cslpalmbeaches.org. And there's a button at the top that says ways to donate, and it will show you how. So well, we like to do an affirmation, an affirmation of what we give, we know circulates and we receive. And so can we remember our affirmation?
We can create an affirmation. So
Right.
today, what we know is the gift that you give is your heart and love and generosity in all the ways that it is manifested in your life that you share with others. We ask that you share some of that abundance with this ministry so that it can grow and be encouraged and empowered. But as it does, we say together, and so it grows me and my wealth and my abundance. And for this, I am grateful and I say thank you. And so it is.
For as we give, we do receive.
Indeed.
The law of circulation is always operating. And test this out with your own experience. But that when you give, it circulates, it blesses all that it touches, and it returns to you, pressed down and multiplied. We know this to be the law of circulation. We give thanks for it, and together we say,
And
so
so it
it
is.
is.
And now we'd like to end this. The live recording, pause, stop recording. Here we go.